The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
And I'm not the only one. She's pregnant from that little that works there. She says it's mine, supposedly. I can't take chances. I lose everything. No, I am telling you the truth. If something happens to me, you already know. I'm going to blow her brains out so she doesn't talk. I have to do it, Eric. I have no other choice. I'm going to lose everything. What I need is someone to drive me. That's it.
I'm going to blow her brains out. That is what the defendant, Jose Soto-Escalera, said in a very damning conversation between him and his nephew. We're expecting to hear more today in the pregnant mistress murder trial. Plus, we're going to break down the defendant's body language. What does the jury think of this guy? Also this hour, families finally getting justice in the Crystal Rogers case. Emotional victim impact statements at the sentencing of Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson. And we're spotlighting the dosed and choked murder trial for Herbert Swilly. He is accused of staging his husband's murder as a sexual encounter goes wrong. It's all next right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in this morning for Julie Grant. We have a busy Thursday ahead of us today, including this Jose Soto-Escalera case. Wow, this thing is something else. This guy's facing the death penalty, and you watch him in court, he sure doesn't seem to be doing himself any favors in that court. We're going to break down some of his strange behavior a bit later this hour. But we're going to start the morning with a look at our daily docket.
It is my understanding you wish to plead guilty to a fourth-degree sexual contact, criminal sexual contact. Is that correct?
Am I pleading guilty?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I am?
No.
Okay.
No. Nope, that's not how it works. Listen to me, Mr. Boosie.
Huh?
Did you talk to your attorney about how you want to handle your case today?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, Gary Busey in New Jersey, he's set to be sentenced today after, you saw it, pleading guilty-ish for touching women inappropriately at a convention court scheduled there at 9 a.m. In Florida, testimony resumes in the dosed and choked murder trial for defendant Herbert Swilly. That begins at 8:30. We're talking about that case this hour. And in Florida, the state's case expected to rest today in the pregnant mistress murder trial for defendant Jose Soto-Escalera. He's accused, of course, of murdering his 23-year-old mistress, Tanya Wise, and their unborn child. She was 8 months pregnant when he murdered her. That's 9 o'clock Eastern time next hour. We'll be watching that together. It's our top story this morning. We're talking about yesterday and these damaging conversations between the defendant and his nephew. They were recorded in his garbage truck. We're expected to hear more of these recordings today. They took place while Soto-Escalera was sitting there talking, riffing with his nephew days before and after his mistress was found dumped on the side of the road. An FBI Spanish linguist testified and read the recordings out loud with the detective in court, and you can hear Soto-Escalera allegedly outlining his alleged murder plan. Take a listen.
And I'm not the only one. She's pregnant from that little that works there. She says it's mine, supposedly. I can't take chances. I lose everything. No, I am telling you the truth. If something happens to me, you already know. I'm going to blow her brains out so she doesn't talk. I have to do it, Eric. I have no other choice. That's the spot that looks better so far, right?
Yeah, make sure unintelligible.
What do you think about choking her unintelligible?
Huh?
Is it better than a blow and just get it over with, right?
Unintelligible. It would be better.
I'm tired, brother. I'm bro. I'm trying to think how to make that problem go away. But I have to do that because then I won't do it later. And That's the easiest thing. Take her somewhere, and that's it.
So how damning were those conversations? They were bad. Here to discuss, criminologist, author, professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman, and criminal defense attorney Michael J. Brown. Good morning to both of you. All right, Dr. Debbie, this was bad. I mean, this was bad for the defendant. What were your thoughts? What stood out?
Wow, Ted, good morning. And how bad is it? Extremely. So for me, on this case, guilty, guilty, guilty. We have this defendant, Mr. Soto-Escalera, making such incredible statements about what his intention is and desire to do. So we have an interesting theory in criminology. We open any college or university textbook and it jumps right out at us. And I think this case is completely aligned with it. We call it disposal theory. And what that really speaks to is a defendant who wants to dispose of an individual because he or she is an impediment, an inconvenience, an interference in their lives. So unfortunately, as we all know, several cases fall into this category. Scott Peterson, who the death of Lacey, his wife, and unborn child Connor. We've seen it with Lori Daybell and the murders of her children, Tylee and JJ. And also, Ted, with the police officer, Matthew Farwell, who was allegedly accused of killing his mistress, who was also pregnant. So for me, I hope the state of Florida, if this individual is convicted, as I think he will be, will move with, the case should be swift, severe, and certain penalty.
Well, Michael, the death penalty is on the table here. With this type of evidence against your client, is the goal, do you think it's a win if they can save his life at the end of the day? Because, boy, unless something changes here, it seems pretty bad. He is callous, and he just is, I mean, he is allegedly the most disgusting person on earth, given the fact that he is talking about getting rid of this woman and the way he talks about her. This is also his child, and he's happy with framing the other boyfriend. I mean, it's as despicable as it gets. Your thoughts?
It does, Ted. Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Debbie. You know, this is a situation where totally built in for the death penalty. It's apropos. You're dealing with your girlfriend and then the unborn child. So, yes, that's what it's catered for, this very type of situation. And if you can save his life, based on the evidence in this particular case, I think that is a huge victory. The evidence is overwhelming. You know, you're talking about different facets of the evidence, which is circumstantial. You have a conversation with the police, which he indicates he wasn't involved with her, a very limited relationship, didn't have a sexual relationship. We know that's not true because now you have DNA that matches the child. You have blood in the car, his DNA plus her blood. And you also have phone records which show him coming in and her going out of the location. And every one of those could obviously have an innocent explanation if they had a relationship. But the nail in the coffin is going to be that recorded conversation that we just heard. Because, Ted, as we know, that's not police custodial interrogation. That's voluntary. There's no coercion argument. There's no voluntariness argument. It's made to his cousin. And that is an extremely damning piece of evidence that turns the tide on every piece of circumstantial evidence and really nails down this case.
Yeah, and here's a little bit of him opining about, well, should I choke her? Take a listen.
What do you think about choking her, unintelligible?
Huh?
Is it better than a blow and just get it over with? I just can't do it, unintelligible, inside my truck. It won't hurt me if it's not my truck. I got to strangle that. You can't leave no blood or nothing in the truck.
Dr. Debbie, it's scary that these people are walking around amongst us. And when you listen to the callous nature of this conversation, to Michael's point, this is just him riffing about a murder.
True, Ted and Michael, it's just unbelievable how people think, and to even have the thought of killing someone is so awful. But then we take it that next step and they actually go through with it. And so I'm 100% in agreement with all that Michael said, these conversations, and he's planning how he would do it. And that's exactly what we know about first-degree murder. There's planning, there's premeditation, it's willful, and it's with malice. So I don't see how he's getting out of this. What would he say? He was joking. It wasn't him engaged in the conversation. So it really is awful, but all arrows are pointing to him. And I hope there will be justice for Miss Tanya Wise.
Here he is talking about Tanya Wise, saying basically, nobody's going to care that she's dead. Take a listen.
What you don't know is that she disappears for 1, 2, and even 3 days. She just takes off recklessly to do her own thing. Is that good? She's gotten in trouble with me, with the police. She has a record. She's not the kind of person they'll be searching for like that. Nah, it could be after a week or 2, or maybe even a month.
He's a father of 4. He's got a wife. Michael, how do you, if you're defending him, save his life, humanize him on some level?
Well, I think certainly in this particular case, Ted, I would have done my best based on the evidence that they have to try to strike a deal with the prosecution that in exchange for his plea of guilty, they avoid the death penalty. Now, if that wasn't on the table, so be it. Then you go to the mitigation stage, and I know Florida has that in their sentencing, and you do your best to present somebody who really lost it, wasn't calculating, wasn't thinking, just lost it, and then emphasize him as a father to his children, him as a husband to the wife. Very difficult based on the nature of this charge, but you do your best.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, as again, the state's expected to arrest at some point today after more recordings from the defendant, Dr. Debbie Goodman. Thank you for your valuable time. Michael's going to stick around. Coming up on opening statements.
Brooks, you took my mother's life and tried to erase her from existence. For 10 years.
Emotional victim impact statements at the sentencing for the men convicted of killing Crystal Rogers. And a man accused of murdering his husband by drugging him and then strangling him. We're going to spotlight the dosed and choked murder trial. Stay with us.
The Court TV podcast will return.
I have begged for this. I've made it my mission in life to get more help for Crystal's case. So to see it actually happening was very overwhelming. I believe 100% in my heart that Brooks Houck is responsible, and that's my opinion. For me to see him walking around town, I just think in the back of my mind, it's not going to be forever. So try not to focus on the now and try to focus toward what's going to happen one day.
And that day is here as 2 men were sentenced in connection to the death of Crystal Rogers over a decade after her disappearance. Joseph Lawson and Crystal's then-boyfriend Brooks Houck were back in court on Wednesday. Lawson sentenced to 25 years for conspiracy and tampering with evidence. Houck, he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Those closest to the 35-year-old mother delivered victim impact statements ahead of the sentencing, including this one from Mom.
I pray that one day you will grow a heart and have the decency to tell me where my daughter is so we can have a proper burial for her. You owe that much to your own son, and my daughter deserves that. Her kids deserve that. I do hope that every day you're incarcerated, you see my daughter's beautiful face, and you think about the evil you have committed and how many lives you have destroyed. I pray this haunts you for the rest of your miserable life.
Great words there from Mother. Obviously, Crystal's remains still have not been found. Will we ever know what happened to Crystal? Everything, will we know? Michael J. Brown is still with us. John Phillips joining our conversation this morning. John, good morning to you. Your thoughts on they want Crystal's remains. we see that a lot. Very rare you actually see someone step up and provide that information. Your thoughts on whether or not mom will ever find out where her daughter is?
10 years. This family's been waiting 10 years to have a decent burial of their daughter. And we see this time and time again, particularly on my victims' cases, where they give these compelling statements on their child's murder, their parents' murder. And, you know, it falls on deaf ears. First of all, there's going to be, you know, challenges to the criminal process, the sentence. And then, you know, you get time, right? So this Brooks has a life in prison. And you'd hope there'd be an ounce of remorse to be able to give this critical information, but almost never does it occur.
Do you agree with that, Michael?
I always like to agree with my good friend John, but here's what I'm going to say in this particular case. This guy has no remorse. He has no regret. I think that's clear. And John's spot on in terms of the criminal process and the appellate process. And it's going to take some time. But at some point in time, I think this guy, Houck, is going to be sitting in a jail cell, and he's going to want to redeem himself, although I don't think it's possible, but he's going to want to give that information up. And it may not be for 5 years. It may not be for 20 years. But there'll come a point in time when I think he will reveal where the remains are and give the family some closure.
Houck also facing a civil suit in this case, and he's got some cash. He's a wealthy individual, which, it is what it is. He's going to be spending the rest of his life in a prison, so spending that money is going to be a bit of a problem for him. Let's talk about the next step in this, because it's sort of twofold, and we heard this play out in the sentencing hearing, because Dad, who's looking for Crystal, ended up dying. He was murdered, and that has still not been resolved. And his death was a focus of Wednesday's sentencing as well. Take a listen.
We all know you and your family had something to do with my dad's murder. A coward who couldn't even face him. All because he wanted answers to bring his daughter home.
Brooks, during one of your phone calls, you said, "They've taken my life from me." Wrong. The only lives that have been taken are Crystal and my brother Tommy Ballard's life.
Tommy Ballard spent over a year searching for answers connected to Crystal's disappearance, but just 18 months after he started that search, he was shot and killed in November of 2016. His killer remains unknown, but his family, they're pretty convinced it's Mr. Houck.
As far as my brother Tommy Ballard, I'll never take back what I say every time. I think that they're responsible for the murder of my brother. I think Brooks is involved, Nick's involved, his mother's involved. I think they're all involved, and that's the way I feel. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, that's the question this morning. John Phillips, do you think that there will be justice for Tommy Ballard here?
You know, I haven't looked at the wrongful death suit and seen how wide of a net they cast, but certainly once Brooks loses his right to say, I'm not going to answer that question on, you know, because of the Fifth Amendment, and they have to get into depositions and discovery, you know, there is going to be a window of opportunity, you know, with good attorneys that ask the right questions. I don't know. You know, there's certainly no statute of limitations, you know, for murder in nearly all jurisdictions, but it's tough. You know, he seemed to be getting close to the murder and was killed for it. And, you know, now can the civil suit unravel? Can investigators unravel after all these years? You know, those are the questions that remain.
Michael, that's a good thought. Sometimes civil suits do unearth some information that results then ultimately in a criminal prosecution. Kind of rare, but what's your take?
They could, but you know what the problem here is, as John pointed out, there's no statute of limitations, generally speaking, across our country for murder charges. So if that's the case, when he's deposed on these wrongful death actions, he's going to assert the Fifth Amendment. So you're really not going to get any probative information from him. It's been a long time. And I don't think the authorities have stopped pursuing this. And I think they all know it's him, but they don't have the proof to charge him yet. I think they'll continue. You never know if there'll be jailhouse informants, recorded calls from the facility. They're going to need something more, because if they had it, they would have charged him. And listen, they'll keep pursuing it, and at some point, the dime may drop, and they'll charge him.
John, you know, some people say, well, the guy's he's serving a life sentence. What's the point? Well, you know, you sent him away, and everybody thinks he was responsible. Why waste resources on trying to pin another murder on him? What do you say to that?
When I represented Jordan Davis's family when he was shot and killed in 2012, there was a trial that got Michael Dunn convicted and basically facing a life sentence for attempted murder of 3 other people. And the prosecutor kept going to get justice for Jordan Davis. This is about justice for individual victims. And you can't say, well, we're close enough to justice, you know, justice, close enough. And here, you know, going back to the civil suit, there's nothing better in my life when I take good depositions and I send them over to prosecutors and say, here, go get them, cowboy, cowgirl. It's fun. And then in the wrongful death case, you know, in most jurisdictions, you get to use the election of the Fifth Amendment. And here again, it's selective, right? He can't use it related to questions related to Brooks, but can the father. You know, but there's an inference that can happen in a wrongful death case that can lead you down the path that, again, prosecutors and investigators start taking notice.
Michael, in your experience, how satisfying is this process, the sentencing of an individual for, in this case, Crystal Rogers' family? They went through this. They were able to look him in the eye and speak their mind, especially Mom. How much of a hurdle is this in the process, which never goes away, but how important is this?
It's huge, Ted. It's a big deal. When they get to sit there in court, he's convicted, they get to pour out their heart, pour out their emotions, get it out of their system. It's cathartic, and it's really important for the healing of these family members. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the one outstanding issue, which is really, really disheartening, is the fact that they don't have the body, they don't have the remains. And that's really problematic, because as much as the sentencing gives them that relief, so to speak, of emotions, until they find the body and the remains, it's still going to be open, and it's still unfortunately going to be torturing these family members inside until that happens.
Yeah, good point. Every morning now they'll wake up with that unanswered question still looming, and it will be torturous for them unless Brooks Houck steps up and tells them where the body is. Michael J. Brown, thank you as always for your expertise. John's going to stick around. Still ahead on opening statements.
And how was the defendant's demeanor when he would talk about Tim or their relationship?
Horrible. Screaming, arms flailing, red in the face. I'm gonna get back at him. He's an effing... And I just kept walking away because Tim was a friend of mine, but I still heard what he said.
Whoa, some witnesses are better than others. She was a doozy. Herbert Swilly, he's allegedly responsible for killing his husband. We'll talk about that case. It's the dosed and choked murder trial. And later, a body language expert joins us live to break down this guy, Jose Soto-Escalera. His demeanor, he's a little bizarre in court. We'll talk about that later this hour. Stay with us.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
This morning, the spotlight is on the dosed and choked murder trial out of the state of Florida. Defendant Herbert Swilly is accused of drugging and then strangling his husband, Tim Smith, to death, and then staging a fake crime scene. Prosecutors say that Swilly moved the body to an apartment that the couple owned where he staged that fake crime scene. Court TV's Julia Janae has a background of this case.
Tim Smith and Herbert Swilly seemed to be a loving couple. They'd been married nearly 8 years when the unthinkable happened. After he didn't show up for work, Smith was found dead in an Ocala, Florida apartment in March of 2023. Police say Smith had been drugged, beaten, and strangled. His sister spoke with local station West News.
My brother's not a small person, or wasn't. He was tall, and he was strong, and I can't imagine what he went through, and it breaks my heart to think of it.
Swilly posted on GoFundMe announcing Smith's funeral and reportedly raising a couple $1,000s on the platform. Swilly also stood to receive more than $300,000 from a life insurance policy on his husband.
Just from the first initial conversation I had with him, he changed his story in that conversation 3 times.
After a months-long investigation, deputies arrested Herbert Swilly, charging him with the murder. Investigators say Swilly drugged Smith and strangled him with a ligature at the home the couple shared, and then drove his body to a secondary apartment the couple had, where investigators say he staged a fake crime scene. According to the arrest warrant, Swilly told police the couple had an open marriage and used that apartment for sex with other people they met on social media. Swilly has pleaded not guilty to the murder of his husband.
All right, here to discuss this unique case, criminal defense attorney and civil attorney John Phillips is still with us, and retired NYPD detective Rob O'Donnell is joining our conversation. Rob, good morning to you. Well, this case, he puts a GoFundMe out there. The defendant, his stance is that he's this grieving husband, and as things start to unravel, now he is sitting at the defendant's table in a murder case. Your take, what stands out on this case to you?
The accusations that there is a staged crime scene here, the changing of the story that he said several times. You know, crime scenes by their very nature are very chaotic and very unpredictable. So you want to look at, is it the perfect crime scene? Why is it the perfect crime scene? How the person reacted upon finding out. And, looking at the body camera footage and seeing some of the statements that he gave, his reaction was not typical in a situation like this. So also you want to look at the forensic of where the body was found in this apartment, if it was staged. Your medical examiner can tell, due to lividity and the fluids in the body settling, was it at this location that this murder started and ended, or was it somewhere else and he was repositioned here? So all these things are going to take into effect for this case.
And they did, yeah, and that's what led to this. They had this apartment, John, apparently this would be their sex apartment when other partners were there, and the thought process from Swilly, according to the state, was, oh, he'll put the body there and then blame it on some mysterious sex partner, and it'll all just go away. But to Rob's point, he didn't do a great job, did he, in terms of the staging of this apartment?
Not before or after. Of course, you're going to give me this question at 8:30 in the morning. I'm in Jacksonville. We're close to Ocala. It's a small community known for horses. Known for being just a good town. And here they have this, as you put it, unusual murder where this homosexual couple had this other house, and now or this apartment, and now we're kind of digging into this apartment, even to the point the investigators are ruling out any other DNA and bringing other people in to say, yeah, you may have known these people, but I have an alibi. And all of the evidence before and after keep pointing back to Mr. Swilly.
Here's a witness, and she was something else on the stand talking about the defendant and his demeanor. She had met one or both of the couple in AA. Take a listen.
One of the things that sticks out in my mind is that he said that early in the relationship, he supported Tim. Tim was a lazy SOB, and he owes me, and I spent all this money, and I bought the house, and I did this, and he owes me.
A witness like that gets your attention, that's for sure, Rob. And apparently it's the other way around. The defendant is the one who didn't have resources. There's a $300,000 life insurance policy in play. When investigating a murder, Life insurance is a big deal, right? The monetary potential gain is one of those early factors that is investigated, is it not?
No doubt. I mean, motive here is becoming apparently clear with these witnesses, be it family members or witnesses that knew them, for past statements that he made. The GoFundMe right away, knowing that there would be a $300,000 life insurance policy here. I think any good prosecutor can start to connect the dots that there was indeed a financial motive. There was indeed past domestic tensions between these two individuals. And, the likelihood based on the uncommon statements that he made, based on his partner being murdered and his really callous, nonchalant attitude beforehand, his changing of the stories, all this is going to play into factor.
Here's the landlord talking about he's the landlord of the sex apartment, talking about this case.
He was concerned that Tim was potentially seeing some unsavory, somebody other than him, somebody else, and he said something to the effect that he wasn't always very selective with who he spent time with, and that he was concerned that he had been harmed.
John, he's talking about that Herbert was going around saying, "Oh, I'm so concerned about Tim because he's with these unsavory folks in the apartment." Defendants can do too much sometimes when trying to set the table for investigators. They think that they can manipulate, and what they're doing is just digging, right?
It never fails. Anytime somebody's thinking about open relationships, you got to think of all the entanglements that occur. But at the end of the day, there's three facts that really, really stand out. And that's that, Mr. Smith had 30 times the dosage of like Unisom and Benadryl, the sleep agent. There was substantial damage to his genitals. So it wasn't just a choke. There was some shots taken. And the overall, lead up with fighting and stuff like this, and how it was portrayed, singularly point just to one person, and because it's Ocala, you're going to have a lot of these characters, that could be in a novel, and it's fascinating TV.
Yeah, what is it? This Ocala's piqued my interest. I have to go spend some time there. Sounds like a unique place. Here's the daughter of the defendant. She's 22, and she's being honest. Take a listen.
After Tim died, did your dad ever tell you that he needed more money or the life insurance from Tim?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did he say that?
I feel like quite a few.
Quite a few times? All right. What would he say?
I can't remember exactly. It was just different times. It would be like, we just need to get the life insurance money or something.
All right. Did he ever talk about the mortgage on the house, if he could afford that without the life insurance?
Yes, I don't think he could afford it without it.
Rob, the collateral damage of a crime, of a murder, it's huge. Every single case we cover. And you look at this young woman, her dad is a defendant in this case. She is absolutely going to be scarred. What's going on? Defendants people that commit these things just don't think it through, do they? In terms of, and you've seen it, everyone ends up being a victim on both sides, family-wise, etc., after something like this.
Oh, no doubt. The collateral damage in cases like this, you can see it in this defendant's daughter, who's not only in the midst of this, but has the trauma of herself testifying on the stand before her father. And you can see the focus wasn't about his loved one, wasn't about his partner. It was about money. Everybody he talked to was always about money. And then you go to when he first arrived at the house with the police for a wellness check. I mean, if your loved one, you thought there was something nefarious, he's telling the landlord that he believes something nefarious happened, but he wouldn't force entry into the apartment to check on him to see if he was there. It just goes to show that there's a lot of alignment here, not lining up. And like the attorney said, it's all focusing at this one individual.
And John, to that point, do you expect a guy like Swilly, who at first was, puts the GoFundMe out, telling people all about how it concerns, is he a guy that's going to want to take the witness stand? And would you tell him if you're representing him?
I diagnosed that question within 4 words, and that's the reason for the face. I would tell him stay far away from the witness stand. Prosecutors have a lot against you, and let us muck it up as much as possible because of your statements, because of all the questions. But oftentimes a client's perceived intelligence is their worst enemy, and here, I don't know. He might feel like he can talk his way out of this. I don't think he can.
No, I think it would be a horrible idea if he takes a stand, but he's the kind of guy that maybe is going to demand it as he sees this thing crumbling, because he might need a Hail Mary to pull it off. Let's get a break. When we come back, the defendant's body language in the pregnant mistress murder trial. Boy, if you've been watching this trial, this guy, he pretends to be writing notes during autopsy photos, and he kind of chuckled and rolled his eyes during the recording of his own voice. We're going to break all that down next.
This is the Court TV podcast.
And I'm not the only one. She's pregnant from that little that works there. She says it's mine, supposedly. I can't take chances. I lose everything. No, I am telling you the truth. If something happens to me, you already know. I'm going to blow her brains out so she doesn't talk. I have to do it, Eric. I have no other choice. I'm going to lose everything. What I need is someone to drive me. That's it.
Court expected to resume in about 10-15 minutes from now in Florida for the case against Jose Soto-Escalera. And we are examining his body language because it's interesting, and could it tip the scales? Absolutely. In a case like this is a death case, so jurors are having the horrible responsibility, if they find him guilty, of deciding whether to spare his life or not. And everything you do as a defendant is being absorbed by these jurors. He, of course, is accused of killing his girlfriend, 23-year-old Tanya Wise, and their unborn child. He's married, father of 4, and his thought process was, hey, I got to kill her because I don't want her to ruin my life. Wednesday in court, we heard a translated transcript from a conversation between Soto and Escalara and his nephew. This was read into evidence by a translator. He appeared to discuss the plans for murder before the murder and talked about how to destroy evidence afterwards. We couldn't help also noticing his body language during this process. Take a look.
Where does she live?
Behind Wendy's.
Wendy's, but where?
Why? What are you thinking? Give me an idea.
We can go to where she lives, unintelligible.
If this would be happening back home, it would already be done. It would have been done. It would already be done. And the good thing is that I don't go anywhere. Who is going to accuse me of anything?
Janine Driver with us. We've had other people that pretend to take notes in court. What's he doing here? What do you take from his behavior so far during trial?
So far here, he's taking it all in. As we continue to watch him as he's listening, he is nodding his head subtly, yes, as if to say, yeah, this is what happened. This is what happened when they start to read the transcript. So right here, he's got his hand on his face. He's thinking. He's at a diagonal, which is very interesting because in my world, we call this the scales of justice. This is what's called descending and rising. And these are people that like a system. These are people that are weighing pros and cons. These are people that are prioritizing. And clearly we know he created a system when it came to this murder, the murder of his, affair with his pregnant girlfriend. So we see this here. He just didn't prioritize right.
He has a whole life, he's got the father of 4, garbage truck driver. His conversation is recorded in that truck. It's part of the company had audio and video recording of their employees while working. Is it embarrassment that the defendants go through in something like this? Because it is just, boom, hitting them in the face, the reality of what they have done. What's going on in their minds when they exhibit this behavior?
Well, we definitely, Ted, don't know exactly what's going on in their mind. We can spot the behavior, but we don't know what the catalyst is. And I love that you're asking, is it embarrassment? Because we do see him smiling a little bit. And what happens is when someone is smiling, they're either happy, embarrassed, or it's something called duping delight. And duping delight we often see with murderers who think they have it all figured out. I mean, if we go back, then we can look at Ted. We got Ted Bundy back in 78 and 79. And then in 94, we had Susan Smith. These people were smiling. You know, Susan Smith drowned her 2 kids in a car, Michael 3, Alexander 14 months. Neil Entwistle back in 2006, also smiling, right? He killed his wife, Rachel, and then 9-month-old daughter, Lillian, and then booked a one-way ticket to England. I don't know if you remember this, going old school. And then 2008, Casey Anthony. And then 2018, we had Chris Watts, who killed his pregnant wife, Shanann, and his 2 young daughters, Celeste and Bella. All of these people smiled in court when the stakes got high. So you ask yourself, well, is it really embarrassment when you're in court that you got caught? Or is it this duping delight, which is excessive pride? It's as if I said, I showed them. I showed them. It is excessive pride, I think, here. I do not think that this is embarrassment, but we don't know for sure.
Someone like this, does he realize the mountain of evidence against him and the disgust that he is just pulling out of people, and I'm sure jurors as well, listening to his callous behavior, talking about killing this woman, and then just saying, oh, no one's gonna miss her, they don't care, and they'll probably blame it on that dorky boyfriend of hers anyway. Like, he would be fine if that dude went to prison for this murder that he's about to commit, and then, of course, he killed his own kid. It's so despicable. Does he get it?
Listen, Ted, I think his level of arrogance he does not get it. And here's why I think he doesn't get it. Very similar to some of the people I named, including Chris Watts recently, right, back in 2018, is this. We are missing emotions here. What emotions are we missing? We're missing sadness and we're missing fear. Both sadness and fear don't make an appearance, but guess what does? At a couple points, his eyebrows, you can see it. What happens here with Jose Soto is you see his eyebrows come up in this curved way. That's called surprise. So every now and then you'll see that the eyebrows come up in surprise. But where is fear? Where is sadness? We're not seeing indicative emotions connected with regret here. By the way, see this dip right down here as he's looking? Some people might say, well, Janine, how else would you look? Some people will turn and then look down. This constant dipping is, this guy is a guy who likes a system. Maybe he thinks he's got it all figured out and he's going to get away with it. But I'm not seeing shame, and I'm not seeing embarrassment, and I'm not seeing fear, and I'm not seeing sadness. And that's concerning. That's, you know, very narcissistic. That's evil right there. And by the way, the jury, when the jury sees something that, an emotion that's not there and other emotions that are, they pick up on it. They can't put their finger on it, but it's like, oh, why is that smile there? That's out of place. And what happens is it breaks rapport and trust. So I don't think he's winning over the jury with his body language.
All right. Janine Driver, as always, great getting your thoughts on this defendant.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.